everybody, and welcome to Mad Realms Vote to Kick. I'm your host, Jim, also known as Malthanis, and with me is my fellow host, Arlie, Robin Baird. Welcome back. It's you haven't been on since episode 1.
Right, yeah, I think so.
It's been a while, so...
Hey, episode 10, that's it. Every 10 episodes, I'll come on.
Okay. Well, shouldn't that mean you'd be here for the next, for 11? We'll just go every 10 now. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into the topic for the evening, let's talk about last week's show with Deo, as you can see from the graph right here. The keep and kick on player-created content. It was a 53 to 46% split. 13 responses, so I think it's one of those things, like, I believe Deo's whole thing about it was that using it as a selling point. He's not against it being included in the game, but is like, it's on the box.
Right.
So, I'm not surprised that it was a relatively split topic. Not at all. But,
just curious, because I'm confused. I'm always confused. Red is kick, keep is blue?
Yes.
Because, like...
I know, honestly, the way the pie chart rolls out on the sheet, it goes wherever the hell it feels like.
Yeah.
But the colors match, and that's what matters.
The colors match. Okay, good.
At least the colors match as long as they behave, and most of the time they don't. And I have to edit them out in the middle of the show.
Right.
But to go into what this week's topic is, we're talking about Day 1 DLC.
Yay!
Which I'm going to be arguing keep.
You horrible person.
Because Arlie likes to back me into these corners with these topics. She did it with loot boxes the first time, and now we're on to this shit.
I'm consistent.
That's true, yeah. I should stop letting you choose the topics. But, to get into it, and Wispy Gem in chat also kind of helped solidify the difference here, is Day 1 DLC is content in a game that is available on release. I believe an example would be, I believe you were talking about Red Dead Redemption.
Yep.
Has mission packs or missions available as Day 1 DLC. From my personal experience, the character Javik from Mass Effect 3 was famously pre-order DLC. I believe available for purchase on release day or the day after.
Right.
But that is specifically what we're talking. We're not talking about patches. We're not talking about bug fixes. I have said many times during Talking Script, Saturdays, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on twitch.tv/madromes, that there is no test environment like live. You are never going to have the iteration going on in a QA department that you will have for however many people you have playing your game. It's just not a thing that you're going to be able to replicate. So people in live are going to find your bugs. So we're not talking about hot fixes. We're not talking about balance patches that happen on or shortly after release. We're talking specifically about created content. Now, while Arlie goes on her opening arguments for kick, I'm going to go edit the poll. So, take it away, Arlie.
All right. So, like, I might be old-fashioned in my thinking about a game, but when you buy a game, in my opinion, you buy the game. Like, everything that's there when you get the game should be what you get. And, like, having, like, I've made my peace with DLC down the road, like, future content. It's an interesting way for them to add more things to a game, fine. But, like, it rubs me wrong that you can buy the game at the base price, but because you didn't buy one of the super bigger fancy packs, you miss out on story content. So for like the example of Red Dead Redemption that I gave, there was, I think it was the ultimate pack cost, I don't know, I think it was $90, maybe $100. But with it, you got, I think, 6 extra missions that you could play during the game. Now, these weren't main story missions, so that's how they justified it. Like, you know, your experience of the main story wouldn't be different and wouldn't alter how things turn out on that. But at the same time, to my way of thinking, like, you know, I like story in games. That's what I want to experience the most of the time. And having stuff that I got when I bought pre-order a game and I don't have access to it just because I didn't want to get the extra super pack, that annoys me. Cosmetic things, fine, whatever. Like, physical things for collector's editions, that's fine. But like actual game content, story stuff, regardless of it being main story or not, characters like you mentioned, all of those things I feel like should not be options because it makes people feel like they're missing out on something and puts an extra pressure to spend even more money on the game, which is what the companies want, of course. But, you know, that's my main argument.
And that's fair. And to go off of what Wispy said in chat, on disc DLC, I would say that very much is a whole new level of hell on the
Right.
kick side. Which I don't know if Arlie was going to get into that.
No, I was not even going to go there because yeah, that is a whole other thing.
Yeah. And my only, and I've been thinking about this. I believe I talked to Arlie about this on the weekend or even early Monday.
I don't know. My days are mush.
I've been thinking about this. I've been talking with my wife about this, and the only thing I can say with the fact that I agree to keep day one DLC, is if it was, say, something from a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo, and you are instrumental with your contribution for the game existing in the first place.
Right.
So a special quest pack that is only or story or mentions that are available to the players because you helped the game to exist. I think that is a level that can justify that level of content.
Right.
And that is the only point in time I would look at that and be like, okay, sure. Look, the colors behave themselves this time.
Hey.
But it's just one of those things where it's like, just like the last episode you were on with the loot boxes, I can't.
It's hard to argue for it. Like, so it's basically the same argument as like DLC that comes out after the game, where basically games are trying to augment their income because the price of games themselves has not gone up in a long time or whatever. But there's just something about like, so part of the reason why I'm okay with it down the road and not with it on day one is that, it takes a while to make content for a game. There is a certain amount of time of investment and money that goes into creating anything that is in a game. It's not just like, poof, there it is. It's not how it works. So I recognize for DLC that comes out down the road that having the extra income from that game helps the game company justify putting the extra time and effort to develop extra story. But if it's day one stuff that it's there when the game launches, they're not putting in extra time or effort other than what they were doing to create the game in the first place. So
kind of one of those things where it's like, why wasn't it part of the main game then?
Right. Yeah. Like you were doing this anyway. Why did you just be like, oh, but these people just make them pay more? Like it feels abusive to me. More so for the big companies, the big AAA companies, because like they don't need to do that to fund their games. Like they're making profits, lots of profits as is. So
remember, Battlefield with its 8.5 million copies and 500 million before microtransactions were enabled was a disappointment.
Right.
So that's I think is the primary argument, is especially with there was a point in time where day one DLC in the era of where physical media for discs, which it's another vote to kick that happened not too long ago with physical versus cloud-based media. When physical delivery was still common, but internet access was widely available, you could make the argument that you have to have a cutoff point.
Right.
This is the final version of the game that ships. But keep working on that other stuff we can make it available. So there's an argument there for some stuff that you could be like, oh, this day one DLC was finished after the cutoff date for shipping the final executable for printing the media.
Which is pretty much why we always have the patches, day one patches too, because like you can't get all the fixes in before a disc like has to get packaged and all of that.
Right. And I can only but the problem now is with Steam and other launchers being more and more the primary distribution model for a lot of things. Those are coming right off of those companies' servers. So right up until maybe even minutes before the thing goes live, they can have that executable transferred and ready. So that window is shrinking to almost to effective non-existence.
Right.
Where the consumer is concerned.
It's also kind of a thing, I was just thinking about it for consoles too, because anytime you do an update on a console for a game, there's a whole vetting process that everything has to go through before it can be put in. Even more than what PCs have, just because consoles are more like, I don't know if regulated is the right word, but essentially regulated.
It's more because the console is maintained by a third party. So like Steam, honestly, looking at Steam Greenlight, we know Valve gives zero fucks about what gets installed to your computer.
Right.
It's, hey, you clicked on it, you paid for it. Here you go. We're just the delivery people. Yeah, we're just the mechanism to get it to you.
Exactly. Who knew that had in it?
But if a buggy game shows up on a PlayStation or an Xbox or a Switch, it reflects poorly on the company that maintains the console, because even though they don't necessarily have any blame for it, it's going to affect them in some way.
Right. So where was I going with that? Oh, yeah. So what I was saying was there is still, even with digital media, there is still some cutoff there in place, because like no matter like what you find and you fix, it has to go through this process before you can make it available to people. So even with digital media, that would still be kind of a thing.
Right. So that's honestly, like, I don't have any further arguments for keep. I wish wait. So Sony was being really hands-on in checking the Life of Black Tiger. Oh God, let's not talk about Life of Black Tiger.
What is Life of Black Tiger?
You can Google it, but suffice to say, it got thrown up on the PlayStation Store's indie section, and its level of, I think it's best described as is a game.
Oh, how old is it?
It was on the store for PlayStation 4, so within
I think
it was within the past year or two.
Wow,
probably more year than two.
Huh, that's crazy. I'm actually surprised. It looks like the keep and kick is even on this.
Well, I believe we only have 2 votes at the moment, so that would be why. You can throw your, it's 2 votes so far. Don't forget to throw your vote in, because
I did.
Okay, then we're the only 2 votes right now. Chat, help. There we go.
Oh no, I did forget is what I meant.
Did forget. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well then that was probably Wispy, and then that was probably you. So
yep, there we go.
Throw your sand somewhere.
That looks way better.
But see, it's kind of difficult for me to argue, and especially like there are so many caveats to arguing keep for this.
Right.
Indie companies, so I can't I can't in any way, shape, or form argue for AAA companies such as EA or Activision Blizzard. Specifically, Javik, for those of you who don't know, was a character in Mass Effect 3 who was a Prothean, which was a precursor race that basically the entire first 2 games went on raving about.
Right.
And he was a day one DLC character that was a pre-order bonus. Now, I got him mostly because I had been anticipating the entire Mass Effect trilogy for...
Who got him?
Okay, you got 3. Actually, she bought 2 as well, because I handed her Mass Effect 1, and she just kind of took off with the whole Goriam thing. But the Protheans are a big goddamn deal in the narrative of the game. And
Right.
like, but he doesn't have it. He's not part of the main plot. And it's just like, he's a fucking Prothean.
Right.
Literally one of the people who would remember why everything's going to hell in the first place with the series.
They did the same kind of thing with, I think it was Dragon Age 2, where if you bought one of the deluxe packs or whatever, you got Dog as a character in that game too, which, you know, it wasn't all that like important. It's a dog, but it's a dog. Like, are you kidding me?
The Mabari Hound? Yeah.
Yeah.
The dog, and also the dog was like, couldn't you take him along as like an extra party member?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there's no
Maybe
reason.
he wasn't like super overpowered that if you didn't have him, you couldn't function in game without him. But still, like,
Dog.
I know.
People love dogs, clearly.
Right.
So I can't argue. So the whole point of me bringing up Javik is the fact that like they even had a separate room in the ship for him to be in that was not used.
So if you didn't have him, it was just empty?
It's just an empty room. Now, granted, there were rooms like that in Mass Effect 2 for the DLC characters, but those characters didn't release until, I want to say, 6 to 8 months. Like, the first one didn't release until 6 to 8 months after the publishing of Mass Effect 2. Javik had a whole... And those rooms also had other interactions with characters going through it. Javik's room in Mass Effect 3 did nothing without him.
It was just his room.
And I believe he's also the only DLC character for Mass Effect 3. So, but that's also possibly going into all of the problems with the Mass Effect 3 ending and the way that the response was to it, but let's not go there. So,
yeah.
EA, not hurting for money. That kind of content is... It's not... Yes, it's technically not essential to the main plot of the game.
Right.
But in a game from a company that drives damn near all of their current series narratively, the character was so key to world building that why would you do this?
Right.
So non-AAA companies can do it with specific kinds of content. So quests that are explicitly to reward backers or people who were key to the production of the game in the first place.
Right. Like there was one I saw, I can't remember what game it was, where as a reward there was a quest in there. Actually, come to think of it, I think anybody could do it, but you did the quest and then as part of the quest it called out the people who were of a certain level or something. That was cool.
All I know is my handle is in the special thanks credits for Battle Chasers, so
nice. Yay.
I don't know if I got anything particularly special for that because I got in at like the tail end before they cut off backers. I didn't get to back the main project, but
No.
I'm happy about it. Like the game came out, I still have to finish it because RPGs take time, yo.
Yes.
But it's just keep day one founder packs, kick everything else. You know
right.
what? Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that's basically my big thing with it is that
right.
Like, day one founder packs are kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, these people are instrumental in helping us actually make this game, so they get these things.
Well, and founder packs brings up, like, it's the same thing, but with MMOs in particular, there's a lot that do that kind of thing with the founder packs and all of that. And I'm sorry, but even for bigger companies, MMOs cost a lot of money to create and run. Like there's a lot that goes on the backside of that.
Server costs alone are
But I mean, not even just that, like the level of programming that has to happen to run an MMO effectively.
Ladies and gentlemen, netcode is a bitch. Running concurrent processes is a bitch. Making sure everything comes in the right order. And I don't do it for anything that's super time sensitive, and I still have problems with it. I was talking in the pre-show, like, I basically do spreadsheets on a website.
Mm-hmm.
And dealing with multiple people editing stuff at the same time is a pain in the ass.
Right.
So an MMO, I mean, being able to handle hundreds of people doing stuff all
Right.
at the same time, it's nuts.
Yep.
So yeah, like basically keep day one founder packs. That's
Yeah.
the only that is the only thing I could possibly think of that is quote unquote acceptable day one DLC.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, at the same time, it's a thin line to tread because you have to be able to release content for that won't piss off the rest of the people.
Right.
I'm also expecting this graph to be very red for the entire week this poll is open. But because you can't release something that just inherently makes the people who started the game better. And
right.
With no way to close the gap. That's why
Mm-hmm.
a lot of day one founder packs are like, here are materials that give you a jump start. Here's
Right.
XP boosters, unique skins that like show that you're a founder. I know that
Mm-hmm.
The capes feature in Minecraft is
Yeah.
something that's used to reward people for special events because you can't just get a cape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It has to be like special enough to make it appealing to people.
Right.
And make it feel like it's a reward, but it can't be so special that you make people who didn't get it feel left out. It's one of the things, like, again, with Red Dead Redemption 2, it pisses me off because they're missions. They're not main story missions, but they're missions. The story, it's interactions with the people. Like, and also, like, I don't know if you played it, but all of the NPCs in that game, they did a really good job of making them all feel really real and all the interactions feel really genuine. So to know that there's actual extra missions out there that I'll never get to see because I didn't get the Ultimate Edition just kind of rankles me.
Well, if they want the money, they'll probably release it for purchase later.
Right.
But that's a game I'll probably never buy. If like one for solidarity on the developer side of things, and two, I was never really a fan of Rockstar's games in the first place.
Yeah.
So.
I've never been a huge fan of those, but it's honestly, it's a game wholly on a different level of any other game I've seen any time in the recent past, this year or last year, or
That's fair.
It's crazy.
But I believe we have reached the end of arguments. So, ladies and gentlemen, we want to know what you think. So, for those of you who are going to be watching this on YouTube, the link to the poll is going to be in the description below. Let us know in the comments why you voted keep or kick. I've been your host, Melthanis. You can find me on Twitter at MelthanisMMO. You can find me here on twitch.tv/MadRealms. That's 2 A's in the Mad, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for Vote to Kick. And then afterwards we have Zero to Hero, our Guild Wars 2 ranked PvP shenanigans. With me has been my fellow host, Arlie. You can find her on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram at Arlie82.
YouTube's actually Robin Baird, but yeah. Yeah, I know.
She also writes for MMORPG and is going to be writing an article about the roller beal racing for those of you who watch that are Guild Wars 2 players, so watch out for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all have a fantastic evening, and I hope to see you... Oh, wait. Plug for the news show. You can also find this channel live on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time for Talking Scrit, our weekly Guild Wars 2 news podcast with my fellow host Arlie, and also Age and Deo, which Age exists on the weekends now, and it's great. He was actually streaming last night. I was surprised.
Ooh.
But, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a fantastic evening, and I hope to see you all later. Good night, everybody.